Okay, I was talking on my Discord the other day about reading tarot cards, and one of my Discord members brought up reading both the upright position and the reverse position at the same time, and it reminded me of Sartre's "The absence of something is also presence itself." And another Discord member recommended me this essay that I'm doing my homework. It's called "What is Hauntology" by Mark Fisher. I'm literally on the second page. But I'm thinking about this concept I've been, thinking about recently. I've been really thinking about it because hauntology, as far as I can tell right now, on the second page, again, disclaimer, on the second page, it starts off talking about electronic music no longer being viewed as futuristic. Here, let me read you this quote. But by 2005, electronica was no longer capable of evoking a future that felt strange or dissonant. If electronic music was futuristic, it was in the same sense that fonts are Gothic. The futuristic now connotated a settled set of concepts, affects, and associations. 21st century electronic music had failed to progress beyond what had been recorded in the 20th century. It was also clear that this was more than a moment in a familiar pattern in which, as one genre wanes, another emerges to take its place at the leading edge of innovation. There was no leading edge of innovation anymore. In music, as elsewhere in culture, we were living in Franco Berardi's suggestive phrase, "after the future." What haunts the digital cul-de-sacs of the 21st century is not so much the past as all the lost futures that the 20th century taught us to anticipate. The futures that have been lost were more than a matter of musical style. More broadly and more troublingly, the disappearance of the future meant the deterioration of a whole mode of social imagination, the capacity to conceive of a world radically different from the one in which we currently live. It meant the acceptance of a situation in which culture would continue without really changing, and where politics was reduced to the administration of an already established system. And then the author brings up postmodernism, which is characterized by its inability to find forms adequate to the present, still less to anticipate wholly new futures. And then later, as Mark Fisher, the author, brings up a movie called Body Heat, Frederick Jameson has this quote here. I highlighted it because, oh my God, give me a second, okay? The enormity of a situation in which we seem increasingly incapable of fashioning representations of our own current experience. I'm sitting here thinking like, fuck man, what delayed processing for autism and neurodiversity, which has been rising in modern age. More people than ever are mentally ill. More people than ever are autistic. And I'm thinking about how, it takes time to think about anything. Not necessarily, yes, we're supposed to know intuitively what's going on in the moment. That is something that we are told intuitively we are supposed to know. The issue comes in with interpreting that knowledge to what we can utilize in that present moment. So that requires, utilizing it quickly, understanding it fully, and interpreting what we could do because of it. Not to mention coming up with something we can do because of it, and then taking that action. I've been thinking a lot about my experience of mental health, which has been a lot of thinking and not a lot of action. I have a lot of built up stuff around executive functioning, specifically task initiation. I often find myself sitting at my desk, just staring at what I want to do and being completely unable to get myself in that moment to actually do it. And it's not necessarily that I don't know how to do it. I have the thought of this is how I would do that, and then the action just doesn't come. And I don't really know if that's necessarily a bad thing. To like not know, to have to think about things. I think thinking about things adds complexity to an idea or concept that shapes our worldviews as individuals. I would not be the same person if I could have everything I wanted immediately right when I wanted it, which is what capitalism is like all about right now. Post-consumerism society, not post-consumerism, current consumerism society. You get everything you want right away. So we're kind of been trained to be like, I want this right now. I have this need and I want it solved immediately. And I want somebody else to do it for me. But in order to solve something in the moment, we first have to fail to solve it in the moment and realize how that moment feels, so that we can then, in a moment where we are actually capable of pulling off this thing, we can take that previous moment of like wrongness, of not working out, and judge it against this one so that we can kind of get a better result this next time. And that continues, it compounds because life is cumulative, but it has ebbs and flows. Just like how the Dark Ages and medieval times are mostly characterized by nothing really happening of major note in Europe, it's followed by a Renaissance. And this YouTuber that I've been seeing occasionally on my feed, I think it's Struthless, had a message that I watched and have really been thinking about, which is after every dark time comes a renaissance. After the 2008 economic crash, blogs became super, super popular, like a blog renaissance happened. And how after the world wars, we had this huge renaissance almost in American art. I think it's okay to want things to be done immediately, but it's not okay to then not do anything about it, not think about it. Just because, like, something I struggle with personally is like this idea of like, I don't know what to do. So I just sit there, I don't try to figure it out. But if I take the effort and the steps to organize my thoughts on what my possible options could be to do, I find it much easier to choose something that I want to do. That's like something about actualizing on paper my thoughts instead of trying to interpret them while they're still in my head, because my thoughts are nebulous. They are not grabbable. They slip through my fingers. So why am I trying to make a decision based on grabbing one when I always struggle with that? Like, I just focus on thinking of something and writing it down, and then I can think of another thing and write it down, and I can think of another thing and write it down. I don't have to think of something and then hold it in my head and think of something else. That's asking of a lot. We actually do not have a capability, I think, as humans to multitask. Overall, I'm sure somebody does, because God forbid, we're all unique. And I think there's something really important in those moments of like, I've thought of this need again, and it's still not happening, that can further the growth of the moments where it will happen. Because life is compounding, life is cumulative. Like, there's no such thing as wasted energy. There's no such thing as wasted time. It all compounds. You go down a research rabbit hole for 5 minutes and you learn something new about squirrels, that shit's gonna come up later. It's on the fucking quiz. It's a non-graded quiz, but it's your quiz. I just don't think, it's like that post that's like, no amount of love is ever wasted. It always comes back to you. Life has a way of making up for itself. And as an artist, as somebody who has been tracking my thoughts since 2021, I think that's like almost, it's, when did Notion get popular? I think it was like late 2020. So I started seriously tracking my thoughts in like maybe mid 2021, writing down things, making sure I wrote it, like saved it in an archive, and then also repeatedly going into that archive, seeing these things that I loved and not touching them because I don't know what to do with them still. And then, you know, today, the present, I'm finding so much use in those thoughts that I didn't have any ideas would ever come to fruition, but wrote down anyway. And I guess what I'm trying to say is, you know, if anybody deserves to take a chance on you, it's you, right? You gotta trust in that curiosity, that instinct, and that spark of like, I wanna go, oh, that's a really interesting fact. I'm gonna deep dive into that. Or like, oh, I don't know what that word is and I'd like to. It's not even the I'd like to, it's just, it starts so small with the I don't know what this means, the recognizing. It starts so small. And we really have to, and I feel like such a hypocrite saying this, we really have to celebrate the small wins. Everybody tells you, and it's so true. And I hate that. And I'm also like using old art that I never thought I would use again, or post old art that I never thought I would post ever. I recycle old photographs that I took back in college in my field notes all the time. I have this huge library of images with which I can choose from to help me express ideas now. And I just think that's so cool. It's like that, you know, Zettelkasten, that like note card library, personal knowledge management library system by Nicholas Lerman, some German guy. He says there's a point when your archive, your Zettelkasten, your personal knowledge management Notion reaches what he called critical mass. When your archive, in this case, reaches critical mass, then it starts being useful. But up until that point, it's like you're just filling a void and it has no use yet, and that's okay. You have to kind of trust in the through lines of your life. If something matters to you, it matters to you because it's important to you. And if it's important to you, it's worth thinking about. And every time you think about something, it grows. Grow your garden, invest in yourself and your interests, and maybe you'll feel better. I don't know, I feel better knowing that these things that I make now that I don't think I'll ever use again will find use again one day. It's all about this returning, this recycling, this coming back to and remaking, not necessarily destroying, but transforming. I don't know. That's all. That's all I have today. That's all I have today. So you can read my latest Substack, August Abundance and Threshold Lessons. It's going to be a link into the description, as well as my website, www.earthworms.com. You can find me online at Instagram, Tumblr, Pinterest, Substack, obviously YouTube at earthworms.com, at earthworms. Not .com, that's the website, not the handle. So, yeah, I love you. Be kind to yourself. Follow curiosity rabbit hole and allow yourself to trip. Like trip and fall down a rabbit hole. Anyway, I love you. Bye. My name is Reuben. You're watching YouTube and you just made it through, so good for you. Just leave a comment and say hi, and don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you in a little while.